Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started. I don't think I'm coming over audio because this is an audio feed, just so you guys know. So we're going to be recording this and uploading it afterwards. So I know a lot of times people are like, his mic's not on. Someone needs to tell him, but I think it is on and we're working. So welcome, everybody. We're super excited to be here with you guys doing our housing summit for Elmore County. If you don't know me, I am Jeff Wills. I'm your current president of BRR. Today, the cool thing about our staff is they gave some really cool scripting to kind of stick to so I don't screw anything up. So if I'm looking it down like that, I'm just going to make sure we stay on task today. But I wanted to engage you a little bit before we started by saying that if you don't know a little bit about me, I grew up in Kuna. So I'm a Kuna kid. My dad worked at the sugar beet factory. And so if you ever drive by the sugar factory and smell it, just know he always said that smells like money. And the sugar factory is alive and well there. I have a lot of really good memories growing up of Mountain Home. We grew up hunting at Anderson Ranch, and I think to this day the best cinnamon roll in the entire state was at the Gear Jammer before it went away. Well, rest in peace. If you don't know what the Gear Jammer is, that means I've been longer here than you have. But I love the Gear Jammer. I wish it was still here because we used to stop by there every single time we went on little hunting trips. So just wanted to connect with you a little bit outside the script today. If there's any questions afterwards, or please let me know. This year, our big advocacy push, our big push, I guess, for the presidential year is connecting, especially after a year coming off like 2021 where there's a lot of non-connecting. So I'm going to be talking to you a lot today, but afterwards I would love to get to know some of you I don't know yet more one-on-one. So don't think I'm not approachable, because I 100% am. So moving right into everything, we'd like to thank our sponsors for making today's event possible. Our class sponsor is Gifts with an Edge by Cutco. And also thank you to our annual sponsors. We appreciate the contributions of these value partners, both at the association and also to individual real estate businesses. The purpose of today's event is to look at the real estate trends in Elmore County and to share information about public policy issues and advocacy events and efforts at the local, state, and national levels. For those that may be unfamiliar with the kinds of advocacy issues your realtor associations focus on, please take a moment to review the public policy document that was provided when you checked in, outlined our positions on the wide range of topics that extend beyond just houses. I think that's one thing a lot of times people don't really realize, is that advocacy efforts are not just candidate level, but also policy level. And that's why these kind of summits are so important, because it gives us the opportunity to engage with you guys who are actually the feet on the ground in regards to what's happening locally. These are also things that impact our communities, our businesses, and even the environment in which we all live and work in. And we are not only working on these issues for you, but on behalf of all those seeking to buy, sell, and own real estate and own property. If you have any question about these policies or any of the legislative topics discussed today, please don't hesitate to contact Cameron Kinzer. Cameron, where's Cameron at? Can you take me a wave? Thank you. For those who don't know him, he is our Director of Government Affairs, and he does an amazing job, and he's very accessible. Believe me, I call him all the time being like, hey, what's going on with this? Hey, what's going on with that? So please save his number, and he's always there for you guys. Since 2018, when Elmore County joined BRR, Cameron has been working to create connections with local elected officials, staff, and industry partners. We'll be hearing from one of those individuals today, Mitra Mehta. Did I say her name right? Cooper? Did I just say her name right? My apologies. My last name is Wills, and people always say Willis, and so I tried really hard prepping for that one, and I'm sure I butchered it, so my apologies. And she is the county's land use and building department director, and we are looking forward to hearing from her here in a moment. We're also joined by Elmore County Commissioner Crystal Rogers. Where's Crystal at? Hi, Crystal. Good to have you here today. Thank you for attending this meeting with us. We appreciate it. Anytime we have an elected official among us, that's always great. So thank you so much. We also have Rena Kerfoot, Jim Stelsmith, Bob Hurt, Kayla Christian, Lori Bott, Sonia Arseniga. Did I say that right? I know Sonia, but I always say her name last wrong. I always say it wrong. I don't think I see her here. Don't tell her. Jennifer Essing, Floyd Beck, and their help on a variety of BR projects, including the Public Policy Committee, the Candidate Endorsement Task Force, the Realtor Community Foundation Board, and the Association Board of Directors. They have made sure association staff and leadership is fully aware of the policy and legislative issues happening here in Elmore County to ensure we offer valuable services and timely advocacy support on your behalf. That's basically a lot to say that, again, without you giving us the feedback at the association level, we don't know exactly what's happening. And that's not just in Elmore County, that's in Jim County and Ada County, right? The awesome part about our association is that we actually need that feedback from you guys as you see things happening on the ground that's impacting your day-to-day business and also private property rights. So if you'd like to be more involved in these efforts, I invite you to join the Elmore County Advisory Board, which will be led by Breanna. We'll be kicking off in the next few weeks to coordinate community service opportunities, CE courses, and networking events, including a holiday party planned for this December. We also look to this group for insights on the local housing market and policy issues to continue to strengthen our advocacy efforts. In addition to that work and that many members benefit provided by BRR that we know were key to our partnership a few years ago, we've been working to identify more ways to help meaningfully impact Elmore County through the association to reinforce the value that you all as realtors have been provided to these communities for the last many, many years. Yes, how many people are familiar with our 501(c) arm? 501(c) arm, is that correct? I'm saying that right? The foundation. Is everyone familiar with our foundation? If you're not, these do some amazing things. So it's really awesome we have the opportunity to engage with them. And they actually have their own board of directors, and their whole purpose is to essentially give out money on an annual basis to different community initiatives that are going to help with anything related to housing. So since the merger, we've held the funds raised previously by the Elmore County Board in our community foundation to fulfill grant requests and sponsorships for the Air Force Appreciation Days, the Mountain Home Police Department, the Glens Ferry School District's STEM program supplies, and graduate night sponsorship for Mountain Home High School. If you have a project that you'd like to request funds for, please direct those to Breanna or to the Elmore County Advisory Group. One thing that I want to share with you guys that a lot of our members don't know about is our matching to charitable contributions. So on a quarterly basis, we have how much do we have on a quarterly basis, Breanna? Do you know off the top of your head? $2,500 on a quarterly basis that our members can request. So if there's any nonprofit which you already give to on an annual basis, you can put in a form and they'll match you up to $100, whatever that nonprofit is. You just have to submit that to the foundation and they'll price match you, which is pretty cool. So you can double, if you're doing that already for any nonprofit here locally, there's money within our association ready to support you in your efforts to support the nonprofits that you find to be important to you. Housing Affordability Initiative. So another exciting way that we are giving back to the community is through a new partnership that we're announcing today. So you're the first ones we're announcing it to. So we're excited to be sharing this with you guys. We're excited about this effort for sure. So for those who don't know, BR has partnered with Leap Charities, a local nonprofit created by a realtor, focused on developing safe, beautifully designed housing that is affordable to purchase. To help fund these new housing each year for at least the next 5 years, BR will invest $50,000 into the Leap Housing Trust, which removes the cost of the land from the financial purchase price of the property, making home ownership possible for more people. This will be funded by a grant from BRR with support from IMLS, as well as proceeds from the annual Circle of Excellence Production Awards, which many of you have already participated in. So thank you for participating in that. Leap has built projects in Ada County and Canyon counties, and they have another plan in Elmore County for 2022. To share details on this partnership and become in upcoming investment in Elmore County, I'd like to welcome Bart Cochran, Executive Director of Leap and a fellow realtor as well. Bart, you're up. There you are. Great. Yeah, like I said, you won't hear your voice, but it's recorded.
Okay, so speaking to the mic, you got it. Oh, sure, you bet. Hey, well, thanks everybody for being here today, and thanks for welcoming us to join you. We are over the moon about this opportunity to partner with the greater membership. I can't think of a more sort of catalytic way to tackle affordable housing than to partner with those who are really the most knowledgeable about the real estate industry, right? Real estate practitioners. Like Jeff mentioned, I'm a real estate practitioner myself. I'm from Idaho. I migrated from the north to the south, and have spent my career in real estate and just saw the challenges of being able to help folks in what we call the full spectrum of housing need, whether it be rental housing or purchase housing. How do we help everybody be able to access housing? And so at some point about 5 years ago, we decided to put our money where our mouth is and say, let's go for it. Let's launch a nonprofit and see what we can do. And so we started with one program. Today we run 6 programs. We are scoping projects throughout the state of Idaho. We specifically focus on the state of Idaho because of our home base in the Treasure Valley. Most of our production you'll see come out of this area, but we definitely, you'll see housing projects that we operate that are rental housing for sure. So you'll see some of that. But what we really are passionate about is this idea of creating homeownership opportunities for an audience that we describe as low-income households. So if you've ever heard that term, when we talk affordable housing, when we're talking about it, terms of like a HUD definition, we're talking about 80% of area median income. It's usually about 1/3 of a community's households fit into that category. And that's in most all of the counties across the state now, the median home price has now exceeded what is affordable to a household at 80% of area median income. So what you can sort of imagine is the work that we're working in is the stuff that just doesn't exist in the market anymore. Maybe it did some time ago, but it just isn't there anymore. And so what we're doing is working backwards to not only create inventory so that folks can access an affordable place. We're using some really interesting strategies. The land trust is one of those. I can explain a little bit more about that. And then also we're bringing tools together. Down payment assistance, credit counseling, even interpretation, we're finding are really some of those biggest barriers for folks who have the desire to become homeowners, but have some barriers that they need to overcome to be able to get there. So we've got some exciting projects, I think, that really help relate to the Boise Regional Realtors membership because of just our dispersion over the counties. It's just so happens to be working really well, kind of coming together from that perspective. I'm going to share just a little bit about some of those projects, and I'll be around if you have any specific questions, one of the largest of which is slated to come into Elmore County. But essentially, just really simply put, we're a nonprofit who believes that all people deserve an opportunity to access an affordable home. So opportunity is a really important word to us. It's the idea that we're creating the opportunity. Someone has to be empowered to take advantage of the opportunity. So this isn't giving housing. This is creating opportunities for people to step up and be able to take advantage of that opportunity. So a couple of community projects we're excited about. Of course, this 5-year this commitment from the association or from the membership, and that will give us really, as everybody knows, housing development takes time, right? It doesn't happen overnight, and so things come together. They oftentimes live in a very early stage for quite some time as we obtain entitlements and we capital stack and we pull together all the necessary parts and pieces. And so we love the idea of this longer term partnership. So we think that the funding that will go directly into these projects is really just one of the sweet spots in it. We think there's really catalytic opportunities for you as members to be able to partner with our organization, and I'll talk about that here in just a minute, to really be able to just catalyze some neat opportunities throughout the Treasure Valley. So a couple of community projects just to point out. The funding will go directly into the first of the funding. It's coming over a series of years. Will go into a project called the Taft Street Project. That one is in Ada County. And what's interesting about it, just so you hear this, we have a belief that there's a lot of excess land in the community held by nonprofits. And so we've been working with faith communities, churches, who own significant amounts of excess land throughout throughout the Treasure Valley. So you've driven by the vacant softball field. You've seen it. It'll all start to kind of click in your head. This will be the first project in recent years done on excess land of a church. So we're using some excess land the church has given over to us to be able to build affordable housing. So what happens is we take land out of the equation. The cost of land in this case, we can dramatically reduce the cost of housing. So in this case, this is in partnership with in Ada County, what's called the Campaign to End Family Homelessness. If you've heard about that campaign that the city launched, and so these will be serving families at 30% of area median income, so what we call extremely low income, in partnership with an organization called Catch. The latest project, the one that's probably the most applicable to this audience for sure, is what we call Falcons Landing. It is still in the fairly early stages, so I'd love to give you as much detail as I possibly can at this point, but this will be the largest affordable housing project done in the last 2 decades in Elmore County. It's meant to be about a little over 100 units of housing, 25 of which are slated to become specifically home ownership. So some of that will be multifamily rental housing, and then some of it will be for sale product using our land trust concept. And then what's neat about it is in the land trust, we're going to actually combine that also with what's considered a sweat equity model. If you've ever heard of mutual self-help through the USDA program or the SHOP program, which is a HUD program, we'll be able to have home owners actually come alongside and be a part of the actual building process. I guess similar to Habitat for Humanity. It's kind of a household name. Maybe you've heard of that. But this is a similar sort of sidecar kind of a program that we operate outside of that. And then we've, just to round it out, we are scoping a project in Emmett, in Gem County right now to sort of round out, the membership base, I guess. But we were already, what was neat about it is as we started these conversations, we were already scoping that project. So it just kind of beautifully works together. And so we're in the early stages of determining the feasibility of that site right now. That's an image. That image at the bottom is the rendering for the project in Mountain Home. I'll show you just a little bit more because I think this might be most applicable to this audience. But we are on South 5th West. If you're familiar with that site, you probably know exactly which piece of property this is, especially as a real estate practitioner in this community. The idea here, if you can see this site plan, essentially a single entrance, all community-centric amenities in the center, and then all of the structures, all the residences to the outside. The smaller building models are the homeownership concept, and the larger building models are the residential piece of it. One of the unique things that I think might be of interest about this project is Blue Cross of Idaho has contributed to this project to help create what's called a demonstration site for social determinants of health. So if you've heard in recent history, hospitals are starting to say, hey, housing is healthcare, right? People are more healthy when they have stable places to live. And so what we're going to do is in this site, we're going to strategically design some of the additional amenities to say, are there other social determinants of health? So things that impact your ultimate level of health that we can influence through the design of the community. So to give you an example, if we were tackling obesity, maybe we would promote an active lifestyle on the property, for example. And so there's a study happening right now to make some of those recommendations, and then we'll intentionally design the project in a way to see if we can track and push the limits on what's possible from a health outcomes perspective. So it's a neat, really, really neat partnership. It'll be the first demonstration site that we're aware of in the state of Idaho. So just to give you a little bit more, I mean, that we love to kind of think of the world that we live as a puzzle, and LEAP is really just one puzzle piece. So we're not even like the majority of the puzzle pieces. We're just one puzzle piece. And so we view that these, what used to be, what oftentimes has been affordable housing has been a sort of, that's their problem, that's the government solving that or whatever. We like to think of it as our problem. This is now impacting our economies, our ability to have vibrant communities, the health of our community. There's so many impacts, and what's so crazy is it's a water cooler issue. You all know somebody, especially as practitioners, you're seeing this all the time, but everybody in the community now has one touch point to affordable housing. They've got somebody living with them. They got their tax bill. They know somebody who's struggling to access housing. They know somebody got a huge rent hike. So now it's become, there's what a boiling point where everybody is engaged in some way, shape, or form. There's just not a lot of folks that are able to do it. There's some technical skills that are required. And so what we're finding is some really neat pathways to partnership. And so these are just a list of some of those folks who are partnering with us in the community to make this all possible. So obviously one of the most exciting things that I think about this partnership, and you'll hear more from us in the future. This is just obviously, today's just the announcement. We're obviously available if you have more questions for us. We want you to really consider reaching out to us and seeing how you can engage in the work that we're doing. We're an open book in terms of the ideas and strategies, how to make that possible. I myself was a real estate practitioner and said, I didn't think I really had anything to sort of help solve this issue. I wasn't specifically skilled in some nuanced way around affordable housing, but it took me a while to say, wait a minute, actually I'm actually uniquely positioned to make a large impact in this space, and all of you in this room are in exactly the same way. Day in, day out, you know transactions that are happening, you know the buyers and sellers, you know where things that are well located, you understand the systems in your community, and so there's incredible pathways for us to be able to work together. These are just a couple of ideas, all these are. But advocacy, even from a local public setting, when we go in front of a local jurisdiction to get the proper entitlements, you guys all know this term NIMBY, right? Sometimes it's challenging for us to get projects approved because of stigmas that are long-lasting stigmas that have been around for decades. So your voice as a real estate practitioner is a really valuable thing. So consider whether it's at the state level or whether it's at the local municipal level, how can you be a voice to help advance the work that we're doing? Maybe it's a letter that's written to city council or something. Volunteering, I mean, a lot of the work we do is just fueled by volunteer labor. So consider, having a day of volunteerism. We can coordinate that in our office. Identifying land opportunities. It's usually land or capital are the two biggest constraints for us. So you being the eyes and ears on the ground, we want to know when you are able to identify opportunities that you think would make a good site selection for a residential project. And then Realtor Give Back partnerships. Realtors have just been historically philanthropic and giving. Most people have their own way of doing that. We just want to encourage, or at least plant a seed, that a neat opportunity to really leverage this partnership with BRR could be to consider a portion of commissions or a special give back sort of a scenario with LEAP. So the membership organization's already doing it. Boy, if we do that at a local level as well, there's a way to really kind of push forward and really catalyze these opportunities. So I know I've only got 10 minutes, I'm probably over, but I'm just, that's the end of it, and I know that there'll be, I'll either stick around if you have questions, or if there's another spot in the to ask questions, I'm sure you've got them. But I just want to, in big font here, this is our contact information. So we just encourage you in this short window of time, if you've got an opportunity, if you just piqued your interest at all, if you want to have a conversation, write down our contact information, and please feel free to reach out to us and see how we can partner together. So that goes to everybody on the podcast or the recording as well as it goes out to the web. Everybody that can't be here in person. So.
Do you have a couple questions or no? Are there any direct questions right away?
We have time for.
Just for land, or are you wanting some renovation type buildings like that could house a lot of people, or is it strictly new construction?
It's a great question. All of the above, for sure. There are definitely opportunities from a rehab perspective, and then also what we'd call greenfield, or like new construction. We're currently working, let's see, throughout the state. We're looking at projects that are, let's see, a vacant junior high is one of the sites that we're looking at. So really, it doesn't a level of complexity we're totally willing to look at really any, especially when it, like I have a particular interest in like sort of disused sites, you know, where maybe it's a vacant building that's unable to be used anymore or something like that. Mm-hmm.
Next to the Opera Theater, but there's a hotel. It's got potential 20 units. And I walked through it recently with the owner, and it just needs some money, but it could house a lot of people, and the need is there. So just throwing that out.
Great. Yeah, we'd love to talk about that. That's a great idea. Yeah. I know you have an agenda to run, but do we have time for a question or two?
Yeah.
Are we okay. Does anybody else have any other?
If you have a question, I'll pass this way. So, once you tell me to be on mic, like the questions stop.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Well, don't hesitate to contact us. We're totally available, and we appreciate all the support of the membership. This wouldn't be possible. Well, obviously, without you pay your dues, right? The foundation exists, you know, in that way. So thank you so much for partnering, and I love to think about the stories we'll be able to tell in the future about how we tackled what we think is like really today's one of today's biggest challenges. So, thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you. I'll shake your hand too. That's my thank you so much. No, what I love about that is, I mean, you nailed it in regards to, and I'm speaking to the choir. The fact you're in this room, I know I'm speaking to the choir. We can't pass through this thing we call real estate with our heads in the dirt in regards to the problems circling around us. Just like all you guys, I love helping buyers and sellers buy and sell property. That's super rewarding. But if we don't have the ability to kind of look forward ahead of us, what's next? There's going to be problems down the road. So thank you so much for being willing to take the position you have and to do something more impactful. Like you said, it's not just someone else's problem for the government to figure out or to solve. It's on us as engaged members within our community and as realtors. So thank you so much for being here. Another person who's working in new development and opportunity is Mitra. I'm going to introduce her now. I'm excited to have her with us today. She is the Land Use and Building Director for Elmore County, Idaho. She started her career as a young architect in Ahmedabad, India. Full of words today, you guys. To improve quality of life of its inhabitants. She has carried forward the vision for more than 20 years in rapidly growing rural and urban counties in the United States. Mitra values and extends fiscal discipline, environmental resources, and mutual respect in every decision. As a result, she has managed to draft policies for creation of economically successful communities such as the city of East Vale, Temecula Valley Wine Country, and Dry Creek Ranch Planned Community. Today, she's going to discuss some of the large development applications in Elmore County that may be open up new opportunities to grow your business. She also touched on some of the Elmore County policy matters that would allow you to serve your clients better. The floor is all yours.
Thank you.
Welcome.
For having me here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. All right, and that's all yours. I'll bring it out of your way here.
And there you go.
Thank you very much, Breanna. So thank you for having me here. When Cameron asked me if I would be inclined to come and speak to all of you, I said yes, because collaboration is something that I have all across my career done. And last year has been a challenging one. Otherwise, we usually have a meet and greet with real estate agents in Elmore County every year in fall, but it has been a challenging year to have that. So this was a great opportunity presented to me. So thank you, BRR, for inviting me over. As Jeff mentioned, I'm the Land Use and Building Director for Elmore County. And In today's presentation, I'm going to talk about Elmore County, introduce how big it is, and also my department that is helping me pull this, fastly growing county to bring it into the next century. Because I think for those of you who have worked here in the past can tell you that my department has not had the best reputation, and we are doing our level best right now to bring it up and build the county to where it has the potential to be. Next, I'm going to talk about some trends from the last year. Again, it was a challenging year to talk about trends, but what I am seeing in terms of growth in Elmore County, I think, is what I'm going to focus on. And then what are the new opportunities on the horizon for all of you as real estate agents? Because I think you are the first eyes and ears on the ground for us, and it is important that you have the right information so that you can pass it along to your clients. And next, I'm going to talk about those policies, and then I'm going to close up quickly. Please feel free to interrupt me as I'm going through this. I know with my Indian accent it may be challenging, so please feel free to interrupt me if you're not able to follow along. So Elmore County was established in 1889, and our headquarters used to be in Rocky Bar, which is now abandoned town, ghost town, as Americans call it. We have 3,100 square mile. We go from 2,500 elevation all the way to 10,000 plus in Atlanta and some of our far-reaching areas, which means that we are not able to provide services almost for 4 to 5 months on any given years in those areas. So if you are located there or if you have clients there, you need to be mindful of their plans. We have population of approximately 27,000 in Elmore County, and we have 2 incorporated cities, Mountain Home and Glens Ferry. Mountain Home houses almost half of our population and has some very exciting things thanks to its community development director currently. And I'm sure you all have been keeping track of that, so I'm not going to go into detail. We also have the Mountain Home Air Force Base, which is a huge economic factor in Elmore County's success, and is something that we want to preserve for long term, at the same time allow for them to thrive in Elmore County. We have 3 highway districts, unlike Ada County, where many of you may be more familiar with Ada County Highway District. We have 3 of them, and 5 fire districts. And we also have the South Fork of Boise River, and this is a major issue in Elmore County that I think you as a real estate agent will need to familiarize yourself, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. So this is the map. I have a map of the county for you. As you can see, we have Mountain Home on one hand, Glens Ferry, King Hill, Hammett on the other end, almost down to Grand View on the south, and then up on top we have Atlanta, Pine, Featherville, and all of that. So it's a large community to say the least, but I have the best team in Elmore County behind me. I took over this department in April of 2020. It was not the best time to start as a director in any because the pandemic was just picking up, and it was a very challenging time. On top of that, we had some organizational issues that the department had faced, and the staff was ready for some leadership. So I was very happy to be placed in that position and start the work there. We strive to promote sustained growth in Elmore County that has needed services. And I tell you, it's easy for me to say it, but on day-to-day basis, when the staff has to deliver that message to community members, it's not that easy. And that's why I think these guys deserves equal recognition for what we are doing in Elmore County, because they are the ones that are delivering sometimes not so favorable news to the community members. But Bart, you can attest to the fact that we are also very customer friendly and are willing to help at any time, because they needed to do a quick land swap with the city, and we were able to support that process fairly fast. So I think it's a fair statement that we try to do our best. Thank you. So what am I seeing in the last year? So I am a data geek. I have to geek out about it. So I took your BRR's Elmore County data and combined it with what I am seeing in my building permit and zoning permit information to see how we are trending in Elmore County, right? I like doing that. So what I noticed first thing is, traditionally in Elmore County, we have issued around 20 to 40 building permits on any given month. Right now, we are trending at 50 to 80 and plus. So we are trending really, really high in terms of development potential in Elmore County. So when I started in April, what I noticed was, the building official would go to the site, and he will realize that, oh, wait, this has great slopes. We should not be allowing buildings here. And so I looked at the county code, worked with the county commissioners, and they have been really awesome in supporting me through and through. And I also worked with our prosecuting attorney to see what we can do. And what we started in September is the blue line, which is the zoning permits. So this is the zoning compliance that I think almost everywhere else is done. We were just somewhere along the lines, we had forgotten to do that. We have it in our code, we just did not do it. And once I reintroduced it back, we were able to identify any site-specific issues that were relevant to a development, and we were able to recognize it upfront rather than when the building official was going on the site to recognize, oh wait, this is in the South Fork of Boise, river. So this was really a great introduction, but it was not an easy one, and again, my team stood by me in this one. But what we were able to do is really rebuild that trust in the development community through that zoning permit itself, because now they know upfront what is required of them. And there is no surprises down the line. It's not like the building official is going to show up and say, red tag, you are in slopes more than 15%. That was not happening. And I think that has really contributed to the growth that I'm seeing in Elmore County, and it has helped, I think, I don't think that has contributed is the fair statement. I don't think it has allowed it. But it has built that confidence that was necessary. So the zoning permits have clearly streamlined our development review process, and then as a result of that, we are able to identify if we need hillside development, if we need to think about floodplain development, and all those issues up front for a development. And it's making it so much easier for your clients down the line because they are made aware upfront. We are also seeing, of course, the building permits are continuing to trend upwards. But looking at your data again, BRR's data, buyers are picking up properties faster in Elmore County. They are paying more $11,000 over the asking price in the last 1 year, which was very surprising. And whereas before the median sales price was at around $200,000 before I started, right now it's more than $250,000, which is just 1 year we have increased the median sales price by $50,000. And you can think about affordability again. We are seeing some issues with that affordable housing, and so I'm glad that we have some thought given to that in Elmore County now. And of course, my revenue continues to trend upwards. Within the first 6 months, we were above the entire last year's revenue. So But what I'm seeing in Elmore County are two things that I think I did not expect when I started here. One is it is getting recognized as affordable housing solution to Treasure Valley's demand. Ada County's median household, 500,000 plus. Elmore County's, 250. Duh, everybody's going to be here. So it's a real issue. And in the next map, I'll show you, where that growth is going, because it is at the county border. A lot of it is at the county border. And then it's also getting recognized as weekend retreat for approximately 700,000 people in Treasure Valley. It's such accessible, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, you can be wherever your cabin is. And cabin, in my mind, is changing the definition, which I'm going to touch upon in a minute. So as you can see, at the western border of Ada County, there is tremendous amount of development happening. We have Mayfield Springs planned community, that is a proposed planned community on the table right now. We have Mayfield Townsite planned community. I'm going to talk about those in a minute. That has 15,000 units associated with that, is approved planned community. A third one is on the horizon, Elk Creek. It could go one way or the other. They could end up doing a subdivision instead. And then there are 11 or so subdivisions that we are looking at in that area that has 1 acre to 5 acre parcel sizes and are being built on individual septic and wells. So, there is tremendous amount of development activities in this area. And again, it's the affordable solution to Treasure Valley. So I'm going to geek out on you a little bit. Planner that I am. Planned communities are a mixture of residential, industrial, institutional, commercial, all sorts of, and variety of residential housing types. Which means if you are a real estate agent doing commercial, you will have, something in this area. If you are doing mixed use, you will have something in this area. This is the proposed planned community of Mayfield Springs, and it is 750 acres and 2,400 dwelling units with commercial and mixed use components to it. What is remarkable about this is, and the reason why this is the first one I'm talking about is because this will break ground first, in my opinion, because they've done all their water, sewer studies with DEQ and Central District Health, traffic studies. They are coordinating with Ada County Highway District and ITD and Mountain Home Highway Districts and so on and so forth. So I think these guys will be, if they go through the review process and get approval, will be the first to break ground in that area. And what is also interesting is they have a 10-year build out, which means on any given year, they'll be building 250 plus or minus homes. So we all better be prepared for that, in my department first, and then all of you as they come on the market, because, there is going to be a tremendous need in supporting this planned communities development. And the second one, which is fairly close to Mayfield Springs, is the Mayfield Townsite, which is also an approved planned community with 15,000 units, and again, mixture of uses, so you have a lot of opportunities coming up here as well. And they are currently going through some discussions with the board to make sure that they can proceed with the development there. When I think about a cabin, I think about like 1,000, 1,200 square feet. That's not what I'm seeing. What we are seeing is 4,000, 5,000, 8,000 square feet cabins in our mountains. And if you go there, whenever the building officials and James and all of them go to some of these places, they are in awe of how much money is spent on those grounds. They create their own ponds, they create their own shooting ranges and all sorts of stuff that I did not really think is possible, but is happening. But that's your new market. Pine, Featherville, Bennett Mountains, look around and there is so much of this happening that's really a new area where I feel, when I started a year ago, I had no clue that would be reviewing these huge cabins in the mountains. So next I want to talk about some policies that we have in our comprehensive plan and in our zoning ordinance that if you were aware of, would really help me tremendously. So I'm asking or begging for your help. So Mountain Home Air Base is very important to us. As a result, we want to make sure that it continues to thrive for years to come in the future. We have some policies. For example, what is in the ABHZ zone, which is the 10 area, is people cannot subdivide there. The minimum parcel size required there is 320 acres. So if you have a client that wants to purchase in this area, please send them our way. We would be happy to break the bad news to them. James is like, no, you did not say that. But that's what is our job. But they will not be able to subdivide. So please keep that in mind. Also, the pinkish area in the middle, north of 4S 5E up there, that is air-based commercial zone. That zone does not allow even a home on it. So I want you all to be mindful of that. And if there is something that you need our help with, we'll be happy to educate your clients with. I am working with the airbase to make sure that they really need the 320 acres, and we really cannot allow a single home on the airbase commercial zone. So we are working on our comprehensive update of the code, where I'm working with them to make sure that we revisit this and look at it and make sure that it is what is needed. But if it does go through and we can change that, I would look for your support in the public hearing process when we go for those. So this is another very critical area of Elmore County and where I am growing the most as a professional. This is the heavy and light industrial corridor along Simcoe Road. Again, no single family homes. So if you have a person that wants to do a subdivision or want to build a home, please advise them. It's not the best place to be in. It has millions of tires getting processed there, and it has all sorts of environmental gunk that people should not be in this corridor. So if you see them wanting to do something like that, please send them our way. And as I said, my valiant staff will do their best. This is also another policy that we are revisiting with the city, but it is north of Mountain Home, and there is a lot of potential there because Mountain Home is not too far. That cross-hatched area on the top, that area is important for the aquifer recharge of Mountain Home, and therefore we only allow 1 unit for 5 acres in that area. And again, we are revisiting this with the city. I have a meeting, as a matter of fact, this afternoon with the airbase planner and Brock Cherry. And we continue to talk about how we can revamp this for better outcome for your clients in the future. But for right now, please make sure that they are aware of that. And then the South Fork of Boise River. All the cross-hatched area that you see is the South Fork of Boise River. And South Fork of Boise River is known for its unpredictable movement of water. It's not mapped accurately, and therefore we have to bend over backwards to make sure that people that are building in that area are building in a safe way. So please work with us if you see the river next to the property, please make sure that you ask your clients to check with us, so that we can help them navigate the process the best. So my department is very much committed to making sure that we provide services as this growth comes to Elmore County. And as a commitment to that, we have started discussions on impact fees. Last Friday, the board authorized the study of impact fees for Elmore County, and I'm very excited about that because that's something we definitely need to look at. We are also working on the code rewrite. Hopefully someday I'll get there and finish it and get through the hearing process. And if we do, we would look forward to your support in some of these policy changes that I talked about. And as I said, if you see those tires on anybody's property, make sure that you send them my way because it's a code violation. James is sitting in the back. And you would be surprised. I many a times joke with my friends, my story in Elmore County is story of trash and tires because tires are everywhere in this county. We have, as I said, some very exciting opportunities in the plant communities. Please be mindful of the grading that your clients wants to do in the mountains. And if they need help, we are here to help them up front. With that, I will stand for any questions you have. And thank you for your time. Really, I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to your.
I have a question. Just
Sure.
up around here. What is
Are you going to stick around?
Yes, I'll be around for
So,
answering any
if you
questions.
guys have any questions that didn't get answered, we'll have her here, and then also you can reach out to me, and I can relay those to her, but should be available to answer some more questions.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Hearing all that xeriscape talk, my wife's going to want to move here. We have all this mature landscaping. Every time I come home, it's another tree's been cut down for some reason. I'm like, you got to stop cutting down all the trees. But xeriscape, yeah, it's very, very smart. The conversation around water is always an interesting one. So, like I said, I don't practice in your community, so it's very eye-opening to kind of hear the different perspectives around the logistics of future developments around water. So, again, thank you for being here and asking those questions because I wouldn't know to ask those as being a practitioner over in Boise. So thank you so much. Moving right along into our program. Next up, we have our Chief Executive Officer, Breanna Vanstrom for Boise Regional Realtors. She's going to give us the 2021 Elmore County Mid-Year Housing Update. For those of you who may not have met her before, a little information on Breanna. She has more than 20 years of experience in marketing, association management, and real estate. She's done event promotions and advertising work for national brands like Rubbermaid, NASCAR, Disney on Ice, which for those of you who know me, I love Disney, so that always makes me happy to read that. And also for Buffalo Wild Wings. She's been a realtor herself and has worked in communications for associations in West Palm Beach, Florida, St. Paul, Minnesota, where she is from originally. And since 2015, she has served as our Chief Executive Officer at BRR. So, Breanna, the floor is now yours. Come on up.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I so appreciate seeing a full room here. This is awesome. Let me get onto my slides here. So I have a ton of information for you that I'm going to kind of jump through. This presentation will be emailed to you, and there's actually going to be some extra slides in there with additional data that you'll have in case I can't get to it. But Mitra set up a lot of what I'm going to talk about really well, so thank you. And Bart, thank you so much for being here and sharing what you guys are doing. We're so excited for some of the things we're able to bring to Elmore County and just continue to appreciate your membership with us. So with that, I'm going to just jump right in and jump through slides. If you have questions, let me know, but also I'll be here after as well. But, you know, as you all are well aware, we continue to see our home prices rising because we continue to have insufficient supply compared to demand. And that's happening across the area, absolutely in Ada County as well. But as Mitra said, it's rolling over into this community, absolutely. And especially as we have such a low inventory of existing homes turning over and this kind of inconsistent new construction that gets brought online for many of the reasons we just talked about, it is the key reason that we're seeing home prices rise. It is not what we saw previously. We're getting so many questions from reporters and even members saying, well, isn't this just like 2006, 7, and 8? And it's not. And I see a lot of shaking heads be like, no, because I know you're having the same conversations with your clients. We have such a different lending practice or lending environment right now than we had before. So that's absolutely helping us. And we also have a completely different inventory situation, right? So we don't have that speculative buying and building that we had previously. But I want to take a step back because you maybe have heard a lot of people saying, especially the National Association of Realtors, different economists talking about, we've been underbuilding for 10 years. And now this is nationally, right? And what was really interesting is when I looked at the housing completions or household or housing unit completions, and when I say housing units, this is single family, condos, townhomes, apartments, so all different types of units, right? Not just individual properties. But what's so interesting is when you kind of take a look at some of this, in 2006 is when we had the peak across the country, and just under 2 million units were completed that year. It's it's so interesting when I was sort of digging into this, and I said, well, it's actually been growing. It was growing pretty consistently since 1991. And so what was kind of going on at that time that maybe led us to that? And there was a ton of changes in federal housing policy, regulatory changes that happened, housing finance policy and lending standards that were all sort of happening really throughout the 90s, just as the millennials were aging into homeownership around 1999, 2000, 2001, that largest generation group that we've ever had. But what's so interesting is we actually built more housing back in 1973. I don't think I did not realize that, right? We thought, well, maybe we just suddenly overbuilt. But what was so interesting is a very similar mix of generational factors and housing policy came into place. So in 1968, the Housing and Urban Development Act went into place. And that's when Ginnie Mae was created. So it was created to expand credit at that time. They also had funding for 1.7 million units. So that really drove the construction of housing across the country. And it was also a few years into when the baby boomers were aging into homeownership, right? So what's so interesting about this is when we see these big peaks in demand and just, what is going on, it's this mix of that federal policy and just generations. And so you've probably seen charts like this before where a lot of people are saying they still feel like we have quite a bit of runway in terms of demand because of just our population in general. And this is, again, across the country. And what's so interesting is the National Association of Realtors found that last year, the median, or I think it was the average age of a first-time home buyer was 48, so still in that Gen X cohort. Not that people weren't buying homes if they were, in other generations. But a lot of people feel like we still have a lot of runway for millennials and then that Gen X group to kind of move through the housing system, if you will, to continue a lot of this demand, which is why that question about bringing on more housing units is so, so important. And now that people have been able to move around more than ever, whether it's from working from home or whatever we've been able to do, I think it was Freddie Mac did a study that found that the majority of states now in the country have a housing deficit. Again, based on what their construction has been over time, their housing units, their population, migration, all of these different factors. And as we are well aware, we're getting a lot of that overflow, right? Just like Elmore County is getting the overflow from Ada County, right? We're getting the overflow from a lot of these western states as well. And so you see that impact that other areas are having based on just housing policy and population growth in other areas. But we know not every single person has a single unit of housing, right? So what's really important to look at is when we're trying to figure out what is the deficit that is going on and why do we have this crunch right now? I looked at, well, what's been the change in household formation sort of over this time, and that's the blue line, versus the change in the number of housing units that have been brought on. And again, population's growing, household formations are coming together faster than we're building product. And so that's even in addition to housing stock that's already on the market, right? And in Elmore County, it's growing a lot. As Mitra said, we've got a lot more household formations coming into the area than we've had housing units brought on the market. And this one may be a little bit tough to see, but I wanted to kind of take a look at, so how did this impact the vacancy rate based on the rental versus the owner-occupied? And I've heard from a lot of people saying, we don't have enough rentals. We don't have enough inventory overall, but absolutely on the rentals. And you can see if we look back from 2010, 2011, just this huge drop off in the vacancy rate. It just got to be such a tight market for rentals in the community here. And even though median household income, whether you're a renter or owner occupied, did increase slightly over this time period, I think because especially with our mortgage rates, allowing monthly payments to be a little bit lower, it actually did become more affordable to purchase a home in Elmore County in around 2018 than it did to rent. So you can see sort of the average, the median monthly payment for rent was about $833 at the end of 2019, about $799 for a mortgage. And so that doesn't include, that's just principal and interest, right? But still, it's still that mindset, right? And so it puts even more pressure on the existing housing stock that we need and that demand to build new homes. One other thing that was kind of brought up is just the lack of housing diversity in different types. And certainly there's reasons why in this community you maybe can't have as much density as you might in other areas. But just for comparison, Ada County is about 85% single family units versus having structures with multifamily properties, apartments and those types of things. So not only does that limit the density that you can bring into a community, it just makes those projects more expensive, right? It's just more expensive to own and purchase a single family home than it is to buy a condo or a townhome. And so we're starting to see a little bit more of that development in Ada County. But that's another area I think where our market is very different than some other states. Coming up this Friday, we have a speaker coming in from Austin, Texas. And just out of curiosity, I looked at their mix and they're about 50-50. So about 50% of their housing stock, a little bit over, is single family homes, with the remaining those multifamily options. So it does allow for, one, greater population, right? They need that demand, but it does spread that housing cost around a little bit more. So there's lots of different reasons, right? This is a kind of an eye chart. Like I said, I'll send this to you. I tried to be as concise as I could on some of these things, but there's just so many factors. It's so complicated. And especially when we look on the existing side of the market, just some different factors that are kind of pulling that existing housing supply back, and then those things that are driving demand. And we all are really well aware of them. But I think particularly for our market, and I'm looking kind of Boise Metro, Southern Idaho overall, one thing that I was kind of realizing is kind of that one of the last bullet points down. It's just easier to get here than ever before. Boise is not a place you just drive to, right? You don't just like, I'm going to go to Boise for the weekend. Like, you don't do that, right? I think we're like the most remote metro area in the lower 48. So it's not a place you just can, commute between. But the Boise airport has been consistently adding new flights. I don't know how often you can't park there anymore. I was like very shocked one day when this was like before the pandemic, but like you can't park there anymore. They have overflow, all this kind of thing. But I think it's just becoming so much easier to get to our region than it ever was before, that it makes it a viable option for people, especially when that work from home, work from anywhere things started to pick up. And I do think there is still kind of this fear of missing out on this hottest housing market. I want to get into the fastest growing market before it gets too busy or whatever. But lots of different things that kind of come together. And the way that we try to quantify and give you the data to really track what that balance between supply and demand is on a monthly basis is through this month supply of inventory metric. So I've shown this in the past. You guys have access to this on a monthly basis from IMLS. But what we always are trying to look for to find a balanced market is between 4 to 6 months supply. Well, we have not seen that in this community since, I think, 2017. So we've been undersupplied of property based on the demand that we've had, and we've been at less than a month if we look at numbers as of June. So I know you guys feel that, and that's, again, it's just another great indicator, but this is one that we do absolutely watch across our communities to see, is this going to start ticking back up? When do we start seeing this come into balance? Because that also will have a huge impact on prices and just the feeling of the market, right? And speaking of that, it feels pretty fast, right? It feels a little crazy, a little frantic. Homes are selling faster than ever. And I do think there's two things I want to kind of mention with this. When we look at days on market, I think sometimes it can feel like this idea of, they're selling quickly, we got to prepare people, but it can also leave the impression that there's nothing available for sale, right? If you look at our monthly reports and look at inventory counts, always remember that's a snapshot of activity on one day, whereas closed sales, right, that's the cumulative number of homes that sold throughout the month. So with our days on market falling below 30 days, let's just say, what's the number here for 2021, 14 days. Let's just say you listed a home on June 1st and it went pending June 14th. It will not show up in inventory. Okay, so be mindful of that. It won't show up in our inventory number, but it was a home that was available for sale. So that's something I really stress to talk to clients about. One, to buyers saying there's homes available. You just got to move quickly. We got to be prepared. But also to those sellers that are saying there's nothing for sale. I'm not moving until I find something, and then holding back inventory as well. So be really careful about that days on market number and how it may be affecting some perceptions that people have. But also what is really interesting to me is the lines on the left chart, that lighter gray, that's our active depending, our days on market average, right? And that's just for year to date. What has not changed is that pending to close time. That's still on average, I think here in Elmore County, about 38 days on average. Well, so much I think of what people understand about real estate right now is getting to pending. You all know there's a whole lot more that happens between pending and closing, right? This is an opportunity, again, before you get into a transaction with a buyer or a seller, explaining, here is what we have to go through. Here is what I want you to be prepared for. And these are the milestones that I'm going to need you to make decisions, potentially very quickly, as we move through this. One, to just talk about what are you doing for consumers right now? There's so much confusion, especially with this really quick market. So talking about these two sides of the transaction, maybe using a chart like this, hopefully that's helpful for you. But I think it's something that we're really running into, of just confusion from people about, like, I don't even understand why I would use you right now, like, right? So it's a bigger transaction than just getting to pending, which you guys all know, but hopefully that information can be helpful. And this was a question that I appreciate a couple of you sent me some questions to include ahead of time. And again, Mitra did highlight this, but we are seeing properties sell over the original list price in Elmore County really for the first time consistently. But I broke this down by price range because I think it's important to also see that, it's, yes, on average, homes are selling for just over 1%, just, at or over list price, but we do see a little bit of flexibility depending on the price range that we're looking in. But also, again, just being aware and letting people know, hey, this is kind of what that may mean in dollars. On one hand, you may say like, oh, under $5,000, that's not too bad. But you've certainly heard the stories of people $20, $30, $50, $100,000 over, right? So our numbers aren't bearing that out here locally. It is a little higher in Ada County. So if you are having clients or are you doing anything over there, we are seeing that in the 10s and 20s on average. But just being aware of that, right? And how are we helping clients be prepared for making that shopping for homes and looking for that if we may see a little bit of over asking price in terms of our closed sales. Now, I've got a ton of other things that I don't have time to tell you about, so they're in this presentation, but these are the things that we're going to be continuing to watch as early indicators to find some market stabilization. Obviously, that MSI number, we want to see that start coming up. I don't think we'll get to 4 very quickly. We certainly don't want to get there quickly, right? Because that means the market shifted like crazy, and we don't expect that to happen. But we want to start seeing that rise. And then here's some other metrics that we can take a look at. You may have been hearing things of nationally prices are stabilizing, right? On the national level, yes, we are seeing some home prices start to back off, start to come down, but we're not seeing that consistently here in our market yet. Not in Elmore County, a little bit in Ada County, but not quite, right? I do think that idea that the Ada County median sales price went over $500,000 in May really shocked a lot of people. It shocked a lot of buyers to be like, whoa, hold on, like this seemed affordable up until that point, right? So I do think that's going to have a little bit of a cooling effect on buyers. We don't know if that's a short term or that's going to kind of be where people are kind of like, all right, I just don't have the willingness or the ability to keep, making these over list offers and whatnot. So a couple things for you to take a look at, some additional charts for you there. But obviously, the mortgage rates being down have allowed people, one, to pay those over list prices and to buy homes at more expensive prices than they would have historically. And what's been really great from the previous years is that has kept that monthly mortgage payment in check for so many people, but not so much now. Over the last few years, especially with all the demand that has come into our market after the pandemic, that has started to kind of go out of balance a little bit. So if we look at the median sales price for Elmore County, this is a year-to-date number looking at existing and new combined. We've increased almost 40% over last year. While rates are down about 6%, it's not helping offset that monthly mortgage payment quite as much. And again, all this is looking at is principal and interest. It's assuming a 20% down and just, that basic scenario that we look at. So we know there's a lot more to it than that. So we're not seeing those rates really pulling back that monthly mortgage price for people quite as much as it had been for a little while, which again was allowing people to say, I can still afford it on a monthly basis, it's no problem. But I know there's still been a lot of people concerned at the amount of mortgage debt people are still taking on, right? And so especially once we went into a recession after the pandemic, everybody was like, the foreclosures are coming, we're going back to it, it's happening. But we don't think so, right? If we look at sort of still what's happening on that macro level, people that had been in a forbearance program, which again was not available previously, those forbearance options were not a thing people could sort of quickly move into, right? And those have been coming down on a national level. And foreclosure filings are at an all-time low across the country, and Idaho was one of the states in which that those were at the lowest. And across the state, I think what number did they have? As of June, there was only 113 across the entire state. So, very different picture than what we were in previously, right? So this is looking at the share of homes that were sold in some sort of distress status in Elmore County, going back historically. And I think 2011 was the peak where we had nearly 50% of all homes sold in some sort of short sale, foreclosure, bank-owned situation. We don't want to go back to that, right? And we don't think we're going to, because I think what's been pretty incredible with sort of the demand that we have, and right, it's the double-edged sword. We're in an industry where we work at this intersection of we want to help people build wealth through home ownership, but we know as those home prices rise, it cause affordability issues, right? For those people, though, that are in a home, but who may think, I'm starting to struggle, I may have to sell in some sort of a distressed situation, the average equity that homeowners have gained across the country has been tremendous, and Idaho has been the fastest state to see that gain. So what the hope is that for any homeowner who may find out that, like, say, I'm not going to be, I lost my job, I have to sell, this idea of having to do a ton of short sales really shouldn't be here right now. We have so much equity in these properties that we should be able to get them on the market on top of the demand. So any distressed activity that does come onto the market, most people feel like that can be absorbed pretty quickly, and we can avoid a lot of those issues, especially because we didn't have people instantly going into a foreclosure status, right? We had that forbearance period to kind of work us through. So there's great hope that we're not going to see something like that again, even if we do see an uptick in that distressed activity, and it is something that we're going to continue watching. I think the other reason we're seeing an increase in our equity is cash sales, right? We know that those are up a little bit, and it's owners. It's also cash sales from people in Idaho that have tremendous equity that can sell their home and roll it into another property. So it's not just completely out of state. And what I love about this chart, and actually I should put it on here a little bit bigger, although Ada County is the top county from which we're getting new residents into Elmore, which we know, actually the majority of the moves are within Elmore County. So that's kind of in the light gray line above there. But Elmore County is a little bit different, right, in terms of the inbound and outbound migration. A lot of it does have to do with the Air Force Base. So we see a little bit more diversity in where people are moving to and from than you might see in some other parts of the market. But I think it's just something to always be mindful of is, we think it's all these people coming from all these other states when a majority of the moves are within our community and kind of within the metro area. And that's been pretty consistent. Even though this data is current only from 2018, that's the most recent we can get from the census just on a county to county level, it's been pretty consistent over the last few years that we're looking at this in terms of where people are moving to and from. But I did think this was kind of interesting. So we're thinking about what I just said about the airport and all the new flights that we're getting. This just popped up a couple days ago saying that in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, those were the 3 states as of June that saw higher traveler, I guess it's called throughput, I don't know what the word is, but of all the states. And so what this person, it's Mike Simonson, he runs Altos Research, he's saying it's all these people that move to these Zoom towns, right? I'm working from home, I'm gonna go live in the mountains and work, it's gonna be wonderful, and now their offices are opening back up and they have to go back, right? Or they're traveling back. Possibly, I think that could be a part of it, but we also have to remember these 3 states have had tremendous growth, more flights than ever, more opportunities to travel back and forth between. So I just thought this was pretty interesting because I don't think we know yet how what they're kind of calling the Great Migration and people being able to work remotely. I don't think we know how that's going to shake out quite yet. We've still got a little bit of time to see where that's going to go. But I just thought that was interesting. And then on a similar level, outbound migration from people where Elmore County residents are moving to, again, it's Ada County after most of the in-county moves, right? I don't know. Oh, okay. Well, maybe, this was I would say maybe you're on the other side, but no. One thing I did want to highlight, because the most current data we have is from 2018, we are launching a survey. It's our BRR's Buyer and Seller Survey. And once a month, we do send out an email to people to say, hey, did you have a sale? Give us some specifics on where your people are coming from, why they're buying. Were you in a multi-offer situation? What we want to try to do is bring you this information in more real time, in more specifics. But these are not representative data samples just yet. This is kind of what we've got over the first 3 months. We want to give you guys this business intelligence. If you get this email from us, please fill it out. We have a link on our website. We'll make sure you guys have that as well. But that's where we want to be able to give you that real-time information, not like who moved here from 2018. Like, that's helpful, and it hasn't changed too much. But if we can get you guys some of this information, we absolutely will. So if you see this email, please don't delete it. Take the survey. And again, we will have the link on the website so we can update that a little bit sooner. And once we have data that's representative, we'll be sure to get that out to you guys on a more consistent basis. But something new we're trying to bring to you guys. All right. So we've been talking about the pandemic, right? It's like, obviously that's had a huge impact on the housing market. But it was funny when I was preparing this, I was thinking back from last year and kind of what we were talking about and what we were going to try to talk about. We didn't know what was going on in July 2020. The market here was kind of opening up, but there were some states, they could not sell real estate. They couldn't transact real estate. They couldn't do showings. They couldn't do anything, right? And so I think it was just helpful to kind of look back and think of, last year around this time, a couple months ago, we were fighting to make sure real estate remained essential so that you could help people buy and sell homes and people that had to move, regardless. we just are so appreciative of the work that all of you did to, work with consumers and people who were nervous, that were scared but had to move, and people that just had circumstances that required them to do something. And just really from your National Association of Realtors, your state association, and even what we tried to do on a local level is just try to give you a little bit of information around all the uncertainty that was happening before. And I think we're still working our way through that, right? One of the big things that we did see, obviously, was people adjusting to virtual things, whether that was, digital showings or virtual showings, live stream, all these kind of things. And what's been interesting is I think a holdover from last year, and so much of that is an increase in off-market sales. And what I mean by off-market sales is a home that sold with 0 days on market or went into the MLS as an unpublished sold. Okay, so lots of reasons this can happen, right? The seller that doesn't want to list until they find the next home, and you probably have 10 buyers waiting. So the minute you know that's available and they're comfortable, you can put that together within your brokerage, right? Or the person that says, I got some repairs to do. If you know of somebody, I'm happy to have you bring them in, what have you. But also a lot of people being very concerned last year about foot traffic in person, just saying, I don't want to have my home on the market. If you know of somebody, great, that's fine. So we saw a pretty noticeable increase in 2020 of off-market sales. Not a lot. I mean, it's 49 that we saw sort of in that category, but we're still seeing that persist into 2021. And I think it's more about the competitive nature of the market right now, right? If you have somebody that wants to do this, please make sure you're following MLS rules, code of ethics, all of those things, but also be mindful that as off-market sales increase, that also is going to affect our days on market count, right? 0 days on market. In Ada County, year to date, we're at almost 10% of off-market sales. So 10% of our sales going in with 0 days on market is pulling that days on market down even a little bit more. So obviously, if it's a tool that your seller needs, absolutely. But it can have an effect on the data and just that perception of this idea that there's no inventory when really it's just low and fast-moving inventory. I think the other thing we were thinking of last year, and my slide was, I think it was something like economists are debating whether we're going to have a V or a W-shaped recovery. Well, we had neither, right? So that's why all this stuff is just, this is what we think is happening. We have no idea till, right? We're after it. But what we actually experienced in our experience is a K-shaped recovery. So you may have heard that, right? Where we had some people in some industries that were able to work from home, continue working, and actually some people did much better financially, whether it was stimulus and all of these things. And you can spend money for a year, so people have money in their pocket to go travel and buy a home and do all these things now. But you had other people in other industries that were previously struggling, or they had personal circumstances that they have come out of this pandemic in really, really difficult positions. And so you're going to hear a lot from the National Association of Realtors about some of the policy work that they're doing with the White House, with Congress right now, in collaboration with the home builders, the mortgage bankers, of we have to figure something out right now because we are in two completely different markets for a lot of people. And so I'm curious, again, I'm not going to predict this. I'm curious to see what's going to come out of this, because if you remember my first slide, when federal policy and housing policy changes, when we have tons of people moving into the thing, that's when we see some big swings in construction and just the market overall. So it'll be really interesting to see sort of where things go over the next year or two. That said, if you have people that still need financial assistance, are struggling in some way, you guys know these resources, but I just want to make sure they're in your back pocket so you can make sure you're connecting with those people, especially if you have landlords and their renters are struggling. Because what we want to do is, we've talked to people at, in particular, Idaho Housing Finance Agency. I always confuse them with the Fair Housing Council. Also, at least in our market, the Boise City and Ada County Housing Authority, and Jesse Tree is another organization. They all have resources to help renters, to help property owners pay for these, pay for monthly mortgage payments, monthly rent payments if they're struggling. And it's so, so important right now, because we know there's a lot of landlords that are hurting, especially mom and pops, if their renters are unable to pay. And so what we're trying to encourage people is get renters that resource that they need so that they can continue to pay, keep the landlords in a good position, or if they're a homeowner as well. And then some other resources that you have there that you can link to. And just a couple other things that I thought were pretty interesting. This is the chief economist for Redfin, and she did a perfect way. She made it nice and concise of the phases we've been through really since March of last year. And it's just sort of everything we've just been through, right? Phase one, the Federal Reserve lowered interest rates to 0, which got all of these people moving it, interested in buying, and all this rush to buy, which pushed up prices when we had all these property or bidding wars that kind of picked up from there. But as home prices went up, we're going to start seeing that back off. And again, that's more of a national thing, but I do think we'll start seeing that locally. So she's saying currently we're sort of in this phase 4 nationally where home prices are starting to stabilize, but it's putting tremendous pressure on the rental market. And so what she's predicting is still an increase in rental prices over the next few months before that starts to stabilize. So I don't think we're out of it yet. Like I said, there's still a lot of uncertainty, still a lot of moving parts that we have to go through. But this was kind of a nice summary of what we've just been through. Now this is an eye chart, and this is what I'm going to say: download the presentation. But I couldn't think of a good way, and I didn't want to read through all of these, of all the questions we've got over the last year or so of like, how do I do this? What resource do you have for this? What's going on here? And so these are some tips and things that we've shared, whether they're through emails, on our website, on our blogs, just things to help you serve your clients right now. Because again, there's uncertainty for them, there's uncertainty for us, and we wanted to kind of give you some of those resources. I think one of the biggest ones though, and I think it's the third one down, and I've shared this in the past, but I think more than ever, is reaching out to your investor clients and talking to them about, do they have maybe single family properties that they can put back into the purchase market? Maybe they can, roll some of that equity into development of apartments, multifamily, other projects that may be available to them, or rolling into commercial, industrial, whatever it may be. That is a huge, huge part of our market that is being held back from existing, which interestingly, in a lot of ways, a lot of our investor clients sort of stopped prices from continuing to fall back in 2010, 11, 12, when they were able to pick up some of those distressed properties, right? But as they've been able to hold on to them, which has been great, they've been able to enjoy the appreciation, the rental rates, and all of that. But I would recommend start connecting your investor clients with their CPAs, with their tax advisors, and seeing if there's a better way that they can utilize those funds, release some of that single family inventory back to the purchase market if possible, and get them into some potentially even greater opportunities for wealth building for them. Because as long as we continue to see this really low level of inventory, and again, I just told you the weird thing with my inventory number, right? But we still know it's really, really low compared to demand. We are going to see home prices continue to rise. And again, that's great for our homeowners, but we know the difficulty that that's putting on a lot of our first-time buyers and renters that are looking to move into the purchase market. So, for us, we've shared this many times. Supply isn't just put houses wherever, right? It's, again, working with planning departments, making sure we're putting things where they need to be, and it's the right project, various price points, different property options for us, to really make sure we have housing that's available for everybody throughout our community. And, we've already touched on this, but if you want to get more involved in this issue, we've got lots of resources. If you have consumers, clients, homeowners, property owners, there's some great resources that you can connect them with as well. And we will continue to just give you this information on a monthly basis. And if you ever have any questions or want something specific, please just reach out and let me know. We like doing this stuff, so it's just fun to kind of dig in and see what's going on, and we'll give you everything from the snapshot all the way to some detailed information. So that's all I've got. So at that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff. And I'm running out of time, so I'll talk to you after if you have questions. How's that?
That's perfect.
All right, there we go. Come on over.
So, Mitra, when you put up your graph earlier, I looked over and Breanna was like smiling because she's graph central. She loves that stuff. So those are Breanna.
I love tracking her.
Yeah. We're very lucky to have her as our CEO for sure. So thank you so much for your comments, Breanna. I appreciate it. We'll be wrapping you up because I think we're a little bit over time, and I know that you probably means you have like a buyer or a seller or someone trying to text you right now talking about something. But I want to take real quick and let you guys know that all the slides and links and everything will be on our website at boirealtors.com. So watch for that. Bart, Mitra, Breanna, thank you so much for your comments today and taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here. We really appreciate that. And thank you all as well. I know as practitioners, it's not the easiest thing to set aside time to meet like this, but we appreciate it very much. And again, we just encourage you guys to continue to be the eyes and ears on the ground within all things in Elmore County, and to make sure that all that stuff that's vitally impacting our consumers and clients and homeowner rights and property rights and water logistics are all getting back to us as associations, so we can interject our resources and energies to make sure that the housing market is well protected here in Elmore County, you guys. We appreciate that. And then also do not forget that we have the Elmore County Advisory Group that you can sign up and be a part of. That's links right into everything BRR. And that immediately following this, I believe, there is a 2021 Commission core course that Elizabeth Hume is teaching. Is that right? Elizabeth Hume is teaching. So if you're here for that, is it gonna be done right here as well? Perfect. I think that's all we had for today. Thank you guys so much. Oh,
Jeff,
yeah.
So on the advisory committee,
Yes.
does it have to be just realtors or can like affiliates?
No, I believe it can also be affiliate members as well. And so, yeah, for all those who don't know, I mean, we love our affiliate members. There's affiliate member way to be a member at BRR. So, yeah, get those title lenders and everyone else involved as well. So, great question. Any other questions? Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate it.